Hi guys, welcome to a very special episode of 90 Min Daily. Now today we've got an interview for you with the director of a film called WONDERKID. The director's called Rhys Chapman. He's a really great guy. And if you haven't seen the film, I'm sure you would have heard about it in some way or another within football. It's been on Sky Sports, it's been on a number of media platforms. It's a film about a number of issues that are really close to home within the football world, very close to the line. And I think it's something that a lot of people want to talk about and maybe either aren't brave enough to talk about it or just don't know the right way to talk about it. So the link to the film WONDERKID is in the description below. It's about a player who's struggling with some serious sort of kind of like off the pitch issues that he's kind of looking for his own way around these issues. He's looking for his own way of accepting himself as a human being, as a person, as well as a football player. So here's a little clip from the film, followed by an amazing interview that we did with Rhys Chapman afterwards.
What's wrong with me, lad?
No, mate. You're just different.
The transfer they said wouldn't be completed, couldn't be completed, is done.
Let's hope he's worth it, lads, eh?
Look at the talent. He's got that, of course. But football is about much more than that.
What a shifting!
So what's something you going to do for us then? Gaga? Paparazzi?
Girls on film.
What were you doing in there? I thought you wanted to be a footballer.
I am a footballer. One day, all that'll matter is I'm the best this country's ever seen.
How do you put this young man into words? His talents are undeniable, and that's all that should matter. But when he explodes like this, a line in the sand has to be drawn.
You've got kids! Call yourself a bastard!
What he's done is disgraceful.
What's wrong with me, lad?
He needs help.
Say it.
Come on in! Come on! I'm the bender that owns you! Say it!
He's given us his answer. Was there ever a question?
Right, so guys, we've got a really big treat today. This is such a pleasure. This is Rhys Chapman, director of WONDERKID, which is, without doubt, one of the best football films I've ever seen. Honestly, it's such a good film. And we met up, how long? Maybe a year ago now?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And we had a screening of the film, and it was at, I think
Tottenham.
It was at Tottenham, wasn't
Yeah.
it? It was in the kind of like the sort of Lily White house there.
Yeah.
A number of really important people in the room who were really impressed by the film. So for us, it was just a great opportunity to kind of maybe do a little bit of a dig into the film, your inspirations from it,
sure.
because I know a lot of our audience, if you haven't seen it already, at the end we'll put a link in for you guys. We'll put a link in the description so you can see it. But it's kind of one of those ones where, as a football fan, it's such an eye-opener and definitely one you want to see. What was the kind of inspiration behind it, mate?
So I really wanted to make a film about a footballer, and but I also wanted to make a film that had meaning and that dealt with an issue within football. And then I did like some research into like racism, corruption, and then the thing that kept coming up again and again was homophobia. And it didn't really, there wasn't many articles about it at the time, and it hadn't really been dealt with in this way, so I just decided to do that. And then the more I progressed with the project, the more I realised that it could actually make a world of difference within the game, and we focused most of our attentions on doing exactly that.
Okay, so there seems to be, I think, would it be fair to say there's been an appetite for change and an appetite for people wanting to do something about homophobia in football?
Yeah.
Without people ever really knowing what it is that they want to do to help, how they want to make this change, and maybe like almost too much pressure on the idea of a player coming out. And how does the film sort of address that?
So we look at reasons why a footballer might not want to come out, but also we criticise masculinity on the whole, and how we're kind of taught not to talk about our problems. Any weakness is exploited. You know, that's a culture within football, isn't it? You exploit the weaknesses of your opposition. The banter in football can be a bit non-PC, if you like.
It's passed off as banter in inverted commas.
Right. And we've done a lot of research into all these factors and built a character and a struggle within that, and used it as a way to generate compassion and understanding from a mass kind of footballing audience, as a way of just getting people to focus their attention on this and think about it a little differently, you know.
Absolutely. Do you want to explain a little bit about the character?
Yeah,
himself?
sure. So we've got a character who's just made a big transfer deadline day move to a London Premier League club, and we follow him as he makes the move down from the north to London to play for this club, and we follow him in an important 2 weeks of his life where he makes his debut, and then he makes his England debut at the end of the film. And within those 2 weeks, he starts to question his own identity, and as he's exposed to more and more of London's culture, he questions why he can't live his life that way.
And you're a big football fan yourself, so
yeah.
Were there any kind of like either films that you took a steer from, or were there moments within football that you thought that's kind of colour and inform how I might take on this?
Yeah,
this film?
so I mean, I loved goal when I was growing up, right? I mean, it's looking back, it's probably not the best film as a film, but the way they made the football scenes feel real and got the Premier League and Newcastle and everyone on board was phenomenal, right?
And Alan Shearer in training, didn't they, at the time?
And they had Beckham and Zidane in the second one or something. Yeah. But it showed to me how if you make it feel authentic, then the audience will believe it. And I knew that if I made a well-directed, well-written film about a footballer and the audience felt that it was real, then it could really hit home on this subject. And I think a huge part of this film's success is the fact that no one would question whether it was a Premier League club or it was a real game, because it's all in the real locations and it's all created authentically.
Can you tell us a little bit about those scenes? Now, for me, the football scenes are incredible. They feel so lifelike. Obviously, you've got like a very kind of authentic camera shake, right? When you're it's almost like steady cam on as the players are running, and you feel like you're there on the pitch. How did you kind of go about those scenes, and how did you like manage to get access to a club, or did you just green screen it? What did you do?
So, believe it or not, all of the football sequences are shot on the pitch at Watford, at Vicarage Road, awesome, in an empty stadium. I see a lot of football films or commercials where they try and mimic a broadcast, so they use camera angles from the gantry and whatnot. To me, if I watch a film about a footballer, especially dealing with a subject like this, I want to know what it feels like to be on that pitch in front of all those people. So we shot the football sequences handheld, right close to the action on the pitch, and we also shot at 50 frames per second. So for those that don't know, most films are either 24 or 25 frames per second, so that's 25 pictures per second. So we shot at 50, so that we could play it back twice as fast, so that it was more intensity and more momentum in the footage, so it feels more real. And the visual effects are phenomenal, right? The VFX team built that stadium based on some footage we filmed at an FA Cup game between Watford and Newcastle, and then adapted it to be specific to our game. And
I mean, it looks incredible when you watch the footage back of the fans in the stand. It feels so authentic and so real. It's almost like you have literally.
So they are real Watford and Newcastle fans.
But I mean, with the action going on pitch, it's just incredible.
So amazing. It's just a case of trying to make it feel like you're on the pitch with the players, because that's enticing to an audience and exciting, right? And then we worked with Adidas to create a fictional team that was believable. We had the Telegraph sponsor the kit. The Premier League allowed us to use the badges, and we got the Premier League football. And these are little things that help you believe it. So that the football scene comes quite early on in the film, and in the opening minutes of a film, you have it's where you draw the audience in, and then once they understand the setup and the characters, they can switch off and believe it to be real. So from that experience, then you go on that character with him on his journey, and you understand the pressure of a footballer a little better.
We're going to go on to talk about a couple of your favourite scenes in a minute. I just want to talk about the character a little bit more, because obviously you line up this idea of being a Premier League footballer, and you see the kind of very raw emotion that people are feeling in the terraces and both on and off the pitch, I think. But it very quickly becomes apparent that he's just a human being, right? He's just another person. How much of that did you want to try and... Particularly, we're going to talk about a scene with his kind of OCD in a bit, right? Yeah. But why did you want to get that across? Why was that so important to you?
Well, I think most elite footballers, unlike, I don't know, like rock stars or movie stars, which some of them can be quite down to earth, but most footballers are quite normal and quiet people, right? It's just that they perform in a stadium week in, week out. So I wanted to humanise the idea of this big celebrity, but also show how vulnerable young footballers can be and how traumatic almost being in the public eye in that situation could be. I also didn't want to glamorise the life of a footballer too much. So, I mean, I'll make it authentic, but not, you know, you see sometimes in sports dramas or something, they overly glamorise the lifestyle, and I wanted it to feel authentic, but I didn't want to go down that route and just create this normal person that a lot of people could relate to.
Yeah, and there's a scene where he's in the hotel, right? And he's in an incredibly expensive and glossy and glamorous hotel, but it's quite insular. You know, he's in his room, he's on his own, and probably is quite lonely. And I think maybe at times we as football fans forget how much there is going on behind the scenes and how much is going on within the players' personal lives.
Well, we talk about footballers like they're like almost like racehorses, like, you know, criticise their ability and their performance and their character when all we know is this one facet of them about their footballing skills, and there is always a person behind that. I think celebrity culture these days, we don't really think of these people as real people.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have real feelings, and with him being trapped in this hotel room, almost, it's like a really big contradiction. Right? So he's got the life of luxury and he's in a penthouse suite, but he can't go outside. He can't be himself, and we use that to deal with some of the themes, like his superstition and anxiety and OCD.
So just let's talk about his. I suppose it's his most important struggle is the fact that he's a gay man and he's in this super macho, very, very charged environment, right? And we see his struggle with coming to terms with that. How close do you feel that you got? I mean, for me, it's incredibly authentic. The way that he was portrayed. How close do you feel as a director that you got to getting that across? And what have people's feedback been when they've said, like, do you know what, that is really close to the money, it's really bang on?
So a lot of the footballers' worries and fears and problems I can understand from being almost like a failed footballer myself. But in terms of the authenticity of the character and being a gay man, what I've found, and this is apparent to all people that face any kind of social injustice, it can either make or break a person, right? So his lack of justice about not being able to feel himself drives him, but it's also a big part of all his problems. So we've created an inspiring character. So he knows he's gay. He has some problems around that, but he wants to come out. He wants to be himself, but it's the environment around him that stops him. And he's so driven to become the best footballer he can be, so that when people do find out that he's gay, they won't matter. And that's his motivation. He's striving to get to a point in his career where if people find out, it won't matter because he's so good. And it was very difficult to speak to any footballers about this, so authenticity around that was difficult. But what I did is I spoke to a number of the LGBT fan groups about their own experiences being a football fan and gay footballers at an amateur level. So I've played for a gay-friendly football team called Soho FC. I've also spoke to many other different amateur football teams and some very good footballers, but just asking them what stopped them from progressing. And more often than not, they would kind of say to me they're either put off by the environment within football or they just didn't think it would be possible. So took what I could learn from them and built it to my own experiences, wanting to be a footballer and not quite making it. And just, yeah, and the feedback's been great. A lot of people from the gay community have been very emotional in speaking to me about the film and what it can do and the effect it had on them. But also some people said it's very close to home and quite uncomfortable for them to watch. So,
and I suppose that pathos is actually for you must be a very, very rewarding feeling, because you're like, we need to discuss this. It needs to be brought to the fore so people can actually see that this is an issue.
Yeah, and we made this film to change football, and most of our efforts have gone into doing that. And the thing I'm most proud of is how much it's influenced probably the key stakeholders at the top of the game, with the Premier League, Sky Sports and Adidas and other organisations like that can make a difference. And also the work I've done with Kick It Out, taking it to young academies, has been one of the most eye-opening and best experiences, because I've really been able to sit back and think like, wow, this is actually having a real effect on the next generation of footballers.
Sure. And I mean, from my point of view, like the next generation of footballers are going to be more aware than ever before, more in the spotlight than ever before. So the fact that the film is getting to them, and the fact that they're seeing this age 16, 17, before they're thrust into that position of, there's almost like emotion removed, you know, it's just, what is your footballing ability, forgetting all about the fact that these people are human beings as well, is massively, massively important.
Yeah, well, the thing that I picked up on the most about speaking with these young footballers is they really understood the pressure the footballer was under, because they're at that same stage. So we've shown it to Liverpool academy players and Chelsea academy players, and we're doing Spurs next week. But they're all at a kind of make and break point, right? Some of them will play in the Premier League. Some of them might have to go to the Championship, and others won't make it. You know, I think 70% of 18-year-olds that get professional contracts are out of the game within 5 years.
Really? God, that's an amazing stat. Absolutely incredible.
So the
stat.
pressure that young footballers are under is phenomenal, and they really understood, even if they didn't understand some of his struggles with his identity, they definitely understood the pressure the football was under, and that created a lot of relation that surprised me, actually.
Absolutely. So let's talk through a couple of the scenes. Do you want to just explain what's kind of going on here?
So we've talked a lot about trying to make it authentic, haven't we? So I'll tell you what's going on. So I kind of foresee him, he's just made the move, they've put him on the bench, kind of thinking that he's not quite ready to start. Maybe he's not a first team player yet. And he goes to warm up, and he overhears a fan kind of rather aggressively shouting at his teammates, and he picks up on it, sees some kids, and gives the kids a little smile. And then we follow him going on. The manager gives him a kind of...
Gives him a nod.
Yeah, fans show some appreciation for the new signing.
And I mean, this is what we were talking about before. I mean, this was so authentic, you know, like the fact that it's at Vicarage Road anyway, and a notable stadium, a stadium that you recognise, is incredible. Once you get onto the pitch, right, this feels so real. For anyone who's played football, it feels very real.
Put a lot of effort into the sound as well. I wrote about 10,000 words and feedback and a brief to the sound guys. I think they probably fed up with me by the end. But it's a very specific atmosphere at English stadium on a cold afternoon. You know what I mean? And I really wanted to capture everything about that.
So we've just seen there, he starts to receive homophobic abuse.
Yeah, so this flicks a switch within the characters, so you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong. He scores a goal almost immediately in quite an aggressive manner. And then he goes and loses his head and confronts the fan.
And he's straight in there and sort of quite, as you said, quite aggressively going at the fan.
And the fan is totally oblivious, celebrating with his kids, which would have witnessed the whole thing.
And I guess that's quite a key message, right? That the fan moves from being so aggressive to completely oblivious within the space of 5 seconds.
They don't actually mean what they're saying. They probably vent their own anger about their own lives out on these players. And we have this perception with footballers, because they earn so much money, that we can say what we like about them and to them, and they can't really complain, which fair enough. But these are real people.
And I think I think we probably have all been guilty, maybe not of racist or homophobic abuse, but we've all been guilty, sitting in the terraces, of losing our rag with a player immediately after he's made the most minute mistake, and then flipping 360 or 180, flipping 180 immediately and going, he's absolutely fine now because he's done something good. You know? And
completely forgetting about that.
And it's suddenly you are judged on the last 5 seconds of your performance, and people say things that don't necessarily mean but might actually be quite damaging.
Yeah, precisely. And you know, these are young adolescents, most of them. You know, even experienced footballers are still young. You know, like late 20s.
Yeah, I mean,
but
late 20s, I still think of myself as a petulant kid at the best of times.
I still find it weird that some players are younger than me. I mean.
Yeah, I'm seeing Wayne Rooney potentially retire, and I remember thinking like, oh my God, that Wayne Rooney, age 16 or whatever, breaking onto the scene, and now we've nearly gone for an entire generation. Should we come on and talk about the next scene? And I think this one in particular is a really, really good example of what you were talking about that sort of charged atmosphere and the banter that goes around particularly during training. So where did you shoot this?
This is at Tottenham's training ground in Enfield. Their facilities are unbelievable.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
And we show the character on his first day of training, and having just confronted the fan in his debut and swearing into the camera. And we show how you know, most clubs, they have initiation ceremonies for young players that come to the club. We play around with them, mocking the character for swearing into the camera, and also his initiation ceremony, and then picking up on his anxiety about that and exploiting it.
And again, you see this kind of like, I think it's probably the case for a lot of groups of stereotypical lads, that it's almost like you dig someone else out as a deflection, right, as a shield for you.
Yeah, well, you know, it's similar with bullying, right? The bully and the victim have the same fears. It's how they act that's different. So a bully will divert attention away from themselves by picking on someone more vulnerable, and a victim will stand there trying not to draw attention to themselves, but by being quiet, actually showing their vulnerability. And this is what we've done here. And then we show, again, with the character's anger against the world, and how he flicks a switch and confronts the captain, you know, the alpha male. And
I mean that line there, it's just a laugh, mate. Yeah. You know, I think that's really a really important line, right? It's fine because it's a laugh, but it's at your expense, you know?
Well, this is what everyone says about banter, don't they? If you ever criticise some of the content of it, everyone always says it's just banter, it's just a laugh. So we kind of critique it slightly without being too forceful, and also show how a young gay man would feel about their own identity being around this kind of behaviour. Absolutely.
And I mean, for him, this kind of like that point, that moment
and this moment when they all laugh, it's almost like he's deceived them, right? They're laughing because they don't think he's gay. He's joked around about the captain fancying him, and does he want to give him a kiss, and their laughter is like he's deceived them, right? So it's a big moment for the character.
Absolutely. And I mean, just moving forward, how has the film been received? How do you feel? How do you feel that it's? I don't want to say like a legacy, but what is the ongoing message? Do you feel like from this film? Do you feel like hopefully this will be outdated within 2 years? Because
I think it will. Yeah, I think the way I've seen things progress in the last year, I'd say within 3 years we may even have gay footballers, or if we don't, there'll certainly be an environment in football where there's so much visibility around this subject, like there was with racism before. And it was like when I was a kid, that the next generation will be the presence of gay people within football will be normalised, so it won't be as big a deal for the next generation. And in terms of the legacy and how the film's been received, you know, people like it as a film first and foremost, but we've shown a lot of people that would fit into a category of mass football supporting culture, right? And there's been a few occasions where we've shown the film, notably to, you know, the academy system, and also to factory workers at Adidas in Manchester's distribution centre, where they've known nothing about the film other than the fact it was about a footballer, and they were really engaged in the film as a football film. And then, you know, there were moments in the film that made them quite uncomfortable, but getting through that experience has been quite eye-opening, and some of the Q&As I've done in those environments have been the most insightful and engaging, and people just really want to know more about it.
Absolutely, and I think the fact that football sort of draws so many people towards it, the fact that within the first 5 minutes, like you say, you're kind of confronted with this high action, sort of high octane, really exciting football scene, and suddenly you're sort of meandering into a very, very serious topic of discussion that needs discussing.
Yeah.
it feels like a natural progression, right? You're sort of there without, and it's never jarring. It never feels like you're sort of, well, we're confronting something here.
It's slowly revealed to you. I mean, a lot of people do see the film knowing what it's about because of the way it was put together and the campaigning side. But yeah, that's been one of the most eye-opening experiences, showing to people that don't know that. But it's also proved to me that most people are decent. You know, like, football can be quite hostile and tribal at times, but you know, most people are decent, and football has a huge capacity to do good. If you look at the thing with, like, Bradley Lowry, you know, and other things where, you know, tragedies happen with the Brazilian team, and if football comes together, there's a real community, and football really does have the power to unite different types of people. Like, I've had experiences growing up where, I don't know, go on holiday and, you know, someone has a football, they kick it to you. You can't speak the language, but you have an understanding through your personality as a footballer, right? And I've played football for Soho FC, the gay team, with players that can't speak English, right? But we get on through our ability to play football together, and you can create really deep and meaningful relationships with people through football that are non-verbal. So football has the capacity to welcome everyone, and I think when football learns to accept different types of people, like the gay community, then it will open football up to everyone, and then it can have a huge effect for, you know, equality globally, but also bringing different people together and stopping all the conflict that's in the world. You know,
I think that's such a profound thing. The idea of being able to hold a conversation without words, you know, being able to interact and understand together without even necessarily needing to speak the language. I think that's so powerful. Just tell me finally, is there a reason to be optimistic? Off the back of watching this film, can a lot of people go away feeling positive about the way that the game's changing and the appetite for change within the game?
Yeah, I think so. If you look at, like, the UEFA, I was watching the Champions League last night, the equal game advert that they show, you know, and the rise of women's football, all the, you know, gay fan groups feeling able to be visible and go and support their team. You know, the football's changing, and I think there is a huge audience of people that like football, love the game, but feel, you know, they feel a bit separate from it because they don't fit into this bracket of, you know, tribal working class football fans. But the more that things like this happen, the more that football will be a place for everyone, and I think you'll see better footballers, you'll see different types of audiences, and football should be able to be experienced by anyone, right? It's a simple and beautiful game.
Absolutely. Now, you brought something with you.
Yep.
What is this that I can see next to you?
This is a gift for you guys. Yeah, it's the WONDERKID soundtrack on vinyl.
That is absolutely awesome. That looks so cool. I will let you, once we get off air, let you pick a spot in the shed end for where it's going to go. Pride of place. Fantastic. Ideally, not covering D-Beck. That would be my that would be my only ask. But Rhys, thank you so much for coming in, mate. I really appreciate your time. And we're going to put some links in the description so you can go and see it. It's a free film to watch now, right?
Yeah.
And you can see the film by clicking on the link below. We'll put a link in the video as well. And I would urge you, please do. It's such a good film, not only from a point of just being an amazing film, but such an important film for people to watch, particularly in light of what's going on at the moment. So do get on below and make sure you watch the film. And thank you again, mate.
Thanks. Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I know that you guys have fairly strong views on what you would like to see on the channel. And just for me and for Boovie and for all the rest of the guys that are out there, Fanvoice Vlog and the rest of our team, I think sometimes it's just really important to talk about the stuff that's going on behind closed doors with football and to talk about the things that maybe aren't the easiest to discuss and things that are going on here, there and everywhere. I think it's all too easy to forget that football players are human beings at the end of the day, and they might just need a little bit more understanding. And this film does an amazing job of bringing to light some of those issues that surround football that are just not being talked about. So if you haven't already, as I said, please do go on below and watch the film. The link's in the description. And yeah, comment below and let us know your thoughts on all of the things that we discussed.